Hello, it's Lisa. I'm going to tell you an answer today to a question that maybe you've had yourself. What do women want? I mean, what do they desire most? No matter who they are, where they come from, or what age they are. And actually, the answer is quite simple, but I can't just tell you straight out. That'd be too easy. So I'm going to imagine you're sitting there in that chair and listening to me now. Well, I tell you a story about King Arthur and his amazing knight, Gawain, who happened to also be his nephew. Well, King Arthur and Gawain were in Carlisle, in King Arthur's residence in Carlisle. And one day, King Arthur went out. He was out for some hours, and when he came back, he was shaken. He was white. There was something terribly wrong. Gawain asked him, Arthur, what's happened? And Arthur recounted what had happened to him during the day. The crux of it was that he had met a very, very angry knight from up north who had been defeated in battle by Arthur and his knights and who had lost his property, his lands. And he was looking for revenge, and he nearly took Arthur's head off while Arthur was unarmed. Now Arthur had said to him, please, sir, this is very unknightly of you. I'm not armed, give me a chance. And this knight, his name was Sir Groma, gave him a chance, not the one he was expecting, gave him the chance to live for a year and a day, and he would keep his life if he could come back with the answer to a question, what do women want? Now, as you can expect, that's quite a question. And as he retold this to Gawain, Gawain was delighted. He was smiling. He said, well, let's go and find out. You know, we've got a year to find out the answer to that question. Surely it's going to be easy. But weeks ran into months and months ran into nearly the whole year. And neither of them were sure they had the right answer. And a few days, 3 or 4 days before he had to go back and meet Sir Groma, Arthur went for a walk, contemplative walk, to think about his answer into a lovely wooden grove. A lovely grove of oak trees. I love oak trees. And while he was there, he heard hiss, hiss, come here. I've got the answer for you. When he turned around, he nearly fell back, for he was looking at a woman so ugly that he'd never seen the likes of before. She had green moss-like skin and hair that looked like twigs. She was as wide as she was high, and her nose came out to here, into there. And she was all wilts and dribbled. And she said, I'm Lady Randall, and I have the question that you're looking for. You met my brother, Sir Groma. He's my stepbrother and he hates me. And I'm prepared to give you the answer to the question, what women want. But on one condition. And that is that your knight, who is also your nephew, Gawain, agrees to marry me. Now Arthur was taken aback at her words and said, I can't give you Gawain. She goes, I didn't ask you to give him to me. I asked that he agreed to marry me. Well, Arthur was very taken aback by this and very conflicted as he pondered over this conversation that he had. He had agreed to meet her again in a couple of days' time just before going to the woods. And he was so conflicted because he wanted to live, but he didn't want to ruin Gwain's life. So it just so happened that Gwain saw Arthur on his return and said, "Arthur, you okay?" And Arthur first of all said, "Oh yeah, nothing, nothing." A bit like a woman. Nothing, nothing. And then Gwain didn't believe him. And Gwain said, "Arthur, tell me." So Arthur blurted it all out with his conversation to Lady Ragnall. Well, Gwain was delighted. Gwain said, "Of course I'll marry her. Arthur, I get to save you." Arthur's going, "No, I can't let you ruin your life." And Gwain said, "Arthur, this is my choice. I choose to. That's the way I can save you. Of course I'm going to do it." So they both went back on the appointed time to meet Lady Ragnall, and Lady Ragnall gave them the answer. And Gwain agreed to marry her on condition that the answer she gave would save Arthur's life. So off he went. He met Sir Gromer at the appointed time. And Sir Gromer, listening to this list of answers that Arthur had been given, leaving Lady Ragnall's till the end, list of answers, was just about to take Arthur's head off when Arthur said, "I've got one more. What women really want is sovereignty. Sovereignty to exercise their own will." Now that turned Sir Gromer into a furious rage. He knew his stepsister had something to do with it. How else would Arthur get that answer? And he knew it was the right answer. He vowed to get his stepsister back. So that day, later on that day, Gwain, true to his word, married Lady Ragnall. And they went off to the bedroom chamber. And she said, "Gwain, kiss me." And he did, without hesitation, not a kind of ooh. He kissed her. And when he stepped back, in front of him was a beautiful younger woman who had a radiant smile and grey, beautiful eyes that were just melting. He didn't trust this woman, though. He stepped back and said, "What sorcery is this?" And Lady Ragnall said, "Relax. You've just broken the spell, or at least part of the spell. You've just broken a spell by marrying me that could only be broken if the best knight in the country were to marry me. This is my true form." And he was delighted. He was absolutely delighted. And so delighted that he'd broken the spell. And she continued, "But listen, you've got something else to decide." She said, "You've now got to answer a question that you've got to live with for the rest of our lives. And this is whether you would have me in my true form during the day and in my other form, the grotesque woman, in our bedchamber at night. Or whether you would have me in my true form at night and our bedchamber and in public as a grotesque woman." Now Gwain was dumbfounded. And he said, "What on earth possessed your brother to do something like this? Why does he hate you so much?" And she said, "Well, he didn't like me." "Why didn't he like you?" "He didn't like me because I stood up to him. I refused his demands for my property and my person. And he had his mother put this spell on me." Wow. And Gwain was silent for the next few minutes. And then he knelt down in front of his wife and he said, I'm sorry, I cannot make this decision. This decision is yours to make alone. But whichever you choose, I stand with you. Now that had brought the biggest smile to Lady Ragnall's face. She was delighted because she knew that the spell had been completely broken, because the last part of the spell was that when she was married to the greatest knight in the country, that he would give her sovereignty to exercise her own will within marriage. So there we have it. A knight, a man with great heart, and a woman with great wisdom can tell us what women really want. Thank you. I'll turn this off.